Welcome to Black Art Today's video series, UnCovered. UnCovered is Black Art Today's intimate conversations with artists of African descent that represent African culture in the genres of literature, visual arts, and the performing arts. In today's episode, Black Art Today interviews Blue Robin, the artist of love.
Talk a little bit about me. I think the first thing I need to start with is my name, because what I get a lot of times is Blue Robin. So as I introduce myself, hi, I'm Blue Robin, and everybody's like, oh, is that your real name? And I'm like, if I introduce myself as that, that's who I am. No matter what other name other people might call me by, but that's my name. But the name in itself to me is extremely important because it tells my history and it tells my story. So the name, like just taking the name itself, it's Blue and it's Robin. My mother's name was Robin. She passed away when I was 3. And so for me, it's kind of like paying homage to my mom, and that's where I kind of come from. And so I have that, the Robin aspect of it is there. And then the Blue aspect deals a lot with life, so that being a color, and as well as when babies come from the hospital, they're given like a blue blanket or a pink blanket depending on the gender. And so by me saying Blue Robin, I'm saying I'm Robin's son. All right, but there's more to that too. All right, so the other part of it is how I write the name. So that has just as much importance as the name itself. So when you see the name, it's a B and it's a / and then it's UE, and that's how I write out the word Blue. That also pays homage to my big brother Oheni Savant, who's out in Atlanta, who does music. A couple years back, when I was making that transition from just being a designer to really embracing my art and really like pushing forward with it, he gave me a call and was like, hey, look, I'm bringing a couple artists down from Philly, and I'm gonna have them stop by DC, and I'm gonna have them pick you up. I want you down here as well. And I'm like, yeah, man, but you know, I'm kind of not there yet. Like, I'm just doing the design stuff. Like, like that's my business right there. I do art, but I'm not all the way in. And he's like, man, you're sitting on gold. Like, I know your ability. I know what you're capable of. Just give me 2 pieces and then bring some canvases down, and you can make some more on your way. And I was like, all right, I'll come just off the strength of him saying that. And so I actually wound up doing like maybe 4 or 5 pieces. And then we head down to Atlanta. They picked me up and we went down to Atlanta, and then he sets up an entire art show for us. And at the same time, it was a 4-week-long retreat where we got a chance to meet different people, talk to different people, kind of work on different things. They did interviews, we did radio spots, a lot of different things just to kind of really embrace that. And it's like, well, if I'm doing this, then it's time. And so literally, that's what woke me up from sleeping. It was just like, look, I know the ability, I even have a degree in it as well too, so it's time to like really start putting the pedal to the metal and just like really embracing it. So I credit him for like waking me up. And so when we were down there, we started this, he started the hip hop movement and the Be Forward movement, where pretty much just what that stands for is being more than and be forward thinking.
And what is this Be Forward / that you see us share at the end of tweets and posts? You know, it's in the I Am Hip Hop movement. It's all over the place. The idea of being forward with the Be Forward / means to continuously be forward thinking. So when I say be forward, that's what we mean, the Be Forward /. So whatever you are, you can be more. If you're a lawyer, you can be more than that. A beat maker, you can be more than that. This is the philosophy of the Be Forward /. Whatever you are, you can be more than that.
The role that I believe art plays, as well as the role that I play, is a healing purpose and a healing principle. So for me, art is about healing, and not necessarily healing the artist, but healing the viewer. So for me, every time I'm creating something, I'm trying to touch or tap into that healing aspect of it. But as an artist, it's also our duty to tell the truth, no matter how it looks. So sometimes it's a little funky, sometimes it looks like sunshine and puppies running around, but the reality is there's a balance between that, so you're going to get both sides. And as an artist, we just are here to tell the truth, and in that truth people can heal through the truth instead of trying to hide or cover it up like a lot of society and the media and whatnot does. And so I believe that's our mission. And then for me, in terms of the message that I'm conveying and within my art, is love. So everything I do is about love and showing all the different forms of love and the different perspectives of love. In terms of my goal with the art, I want to create an emotional and spiritual experience for all those who collect the art and all those who happen to just come across it. And by doing that, I use whatever medium is necessary to convey that message. So it can be anything from painting to dancing to music to sculpture, or even sometimes martial arts. So it's all about whatever is going to convey that emotional and spiritual core. That's tend to be what I drift towards. In terms of what I hope to get out of it, I don't necessarily do art to get something out. I do art to give something. So my mission is to give, and so it's all about giving love and healing. And so that's what I hope to give with the art. So in terms of theme, when I was thinking about this, I was like, my art is inspired by life, so I guess life would be what the theme would be. But then I was like, let me dig a little bit more and really try to explain a little bit in terms of what people are actually looking at. And so in terms of that, I was inspired by the old school velvet paintings that used to hang up in the basements and in everybody's homes. You had the dogs playing poker, you had the woman and the man with the big afro, and then Elvis and all those different things. And so for me, when I was growing up, my family is big into music and big into dance. So as a little kid, we would be in the basement and all the lights would be dim because they're partying and they're having a good time. And we're just running around in between them. And as I look up, with the lights off, these pictures are like bouncing off the walls. And so for me, my first exposure to really see art and really have an appreciation for it was those paintings. And so as I kind of went into figuring out my own voice, I kept having flashes back to my past and to my youth. And so then I said, you know what? It's only right that we pay homage to our elders and our ancestors. So I went to take that style and I wanted to fuse it. Being from the remix generation, I wanted to kind of remix it. And so I put my own spin on it, and a lot of my pieces are black light and glow in the dark, as well as having that real bold black in the background to kind of pop. Again, all my art is based off of life, but I would say a real life situation that really kind of triggered me and made me really want to create, I would say has to be the MOVE bombing in Philadelphia, which happened in 1985. And I remember being in college and we were doing a research paper about injustice and different things that happened. And I remember sitting there and being in the classroom, and as we did the presentation, not even the professor knew about the bombing. And I was like, how does something this major like this, and people outside of the Philadelphia area, unless they were in the know, have no clue that the actual police of that city dropped a bomb on their people. And then when the people ran out, they started shooting at them to run back into the fire. And so for me, that really touched, and I felt some type of way about people not knowing about it. So as I started to really kind of go into my creation process, that was one I had to touch on. And so I had to create a piece based off of that. Trying to pick a piece to bring up above another piece is extremely hard as an artist, Because it's like asking a parent, which child are you more proud of? That's like almost impossible to do. But I can tell you a period of creation in which I'm most proud of. And so I was going through a lot of stuff in my personal life as well. And I believe it was like in 2015, I decided, you know what, at the end of the year, I was like, you know what, next year I'm gonna do 50 pieces and I'm gonna dedicate myself to doing 50 pieces. And I don't know what it's gonna look like at the end. I don't know what it's gonna look like through. I just know that that's the number. And so the entire year, I focused on just creating. So I literally did an artistic purge, and that's how I found my voice. And so I just literally just kept beating on the craft, kept beating on it. I was painting like almost every day. Sometimes I was painting into like 24-hour spans just because it was flowing out of me and I had to let it go. And in that process, what I did was I went through everything that happened to me up until that point, and I just was being brutally honest with it. And so I was being honest with it when I was creating and just letting everything flow. And through that, I kind of got a chance to really become who I am and really embrace who I am. And so I would say the pieces within that series, the first piece and the last piece to me, because they become bookends. They're the exact same size and they're both of women, and you can see the growth within the piece. The first piece was my Amy Wining piece, which is my piece based off of Amy Winehouse, where I morphed her into a wine glass, and the wine is like pouring out of her. And so that piece was focusing on vices. So I said, you know what, let's start with what we consider to be damaging, or the stuff that we are doing that's damaging, and let me start my process and my therapy, you might as well say, that way. And so when I did that piece, it's very simple. And so within that, I did a simple piece, but it's still so powerful. And as I started to work on different techniques and different things and really flesh them out, the last piece is the Mama Dahlia piece, which is me paying homage again to my mom and to the circumstances in which I lost her. But within that piece, it's so much detail and so many different levels that it evolves from simple to complexity, where it's a simple image and it's a simple concept, but it's so many levels that it fused with complex. And so it's so complex in terms of in its final delivery that you can see it more from beginning to end. In terms of collaboration, dream-wise, I would say, so again, I like to pull from all different genres, so I wouldn't even necessarily want to collaborate with another visual artist, but I would want to collaborate with Janelle Monáe and Chappelle at the same time, and just see what comes from that. And so like, as we're all remixing and doing stuff together, I would love to see what type of energy and what type of creation could come from those two. So dream-wise, I would say if I can work with those two at the same time, that'd be like ideal. I would say my biggest challenge professionally, there's a lot of challenges that come just with being a professional in any field, but I would say getting people to believe in something that they haven't seen yet. So what I'm bringing is something that's fresh and something that's new, and it's hard to get a lot of people who are used to things being a certain way to believe in something that they haven't even seen yet. And so that to me is the hardest thing, is to get them to believe. Because I already believe, and I don't need anybody to help me believe. But if you're a non-believer, especially when it comes to the art and when it comes to what I'm bringing, then it's kind of hard to kind of get those people to kind of transfer over. So I would say that would be my biggest challenge, to find that ground. There is a heavy conflict between the old guard and the new guard, which I represent, and we struggle with this debate and this issue, not only within the art community, but just within life, within my generation and the generation right before us, where we kind of butt heads a whole lot. And I talk to a lot of elders, and different elders told me different things, but one thing kind of resonated with me where one elder actually came up and said, you know what, I'm sorry. He's like, our generation just left you guys, and so you guys had to figure out a lot on your own. Whereas the generation before that, your grandparents' generation, they gave us everything that they had when they didn't have much. But they were the generation that went to school and got all the different things. So for them, it was all about them promoting themselves forward. And then they were having kids, but they didn't realize that they were supposed to pass that on to them, to us. And so what happened is we got to where we are by our own blood, sweat, and tears. And so for that, we kind of want some level of respect for that. And we never said we didn't want to hear and we didn't want help. But when we kind of get hit with that whole, yeah, but you didn't do this, or you should do this, or you should, like, it's like we just did all this and you weren't with us to get us to where we are now, but now you want to tell us how we should move from here on out. And it's like, no, we don't mind sitting down with you and being on a level playing field and talking respectfully and getting what you have. But you can't kind of come in and discredit all the stuff that we did. We did things the way we did them because we didn't have the information or the knowledge, and we had to figure it out. And so if it's been working for us, we're going to keep rocking out with it until somebody sits down with us respectfully and kind of gives us something that we can use to kind of move forward. And so the reason that the generation after us is kind of latching on to us and connecting to us is because we don't have a problem with sharing what we get, what we have. And we may not know all the answers, we may not have it mastered because we don't have as many decades in the game, but we don't mind sharing what little we have. And so that constant battle back and forth, it doesn't need to happen, but it is happening. And so with us, it's either going to be where we sit down and we talk respectfully, or we're going to just do what we've been doing our whole lives and just figure it out on our own, and we're going to keep doing that. A lot of times people are trying to figure out what's our style, what style we should be put in, what box they're trying to put us in, and I like to say that we're not in a box at all. We've realized that we're connected to everything, so there's no need to boxes. And so with that, that's why I consider us to be the remix generation. And whereas whatever was given, we put a new spin on it and we add to it. And sometimes that's a challenge because people like the original. But things, just like life, everything changes and it needs to be a progression. If everything is always just an original, then what happens is the old originals fade away and nobody pays any attention to them. Whereas if you remix it, what happens is you create a new piece, but you still have that history coming with it. And so that whole Be Forward movement, which started with Ohene Savant out of Atlanta, is pretty much just stating that we should be more than. And so always be forward thinking about the future, thinking about being more than just what people perceive you to be. And so that's the same thing with the remix. So the remix is like, I have this one track, or the remix being, I'm a painter, but I also like to dance. So now I'm being more than just a painter, I'm also being a dancer, and in turn being an artist, which allows me to just be a creator. So I come from a graphic design background, so for me, branding is extremely important. And that's why in terms of how I present myself when I'm at different shows or at different events, I want to present that solid brand. So whenever you see me, you know, oh, that's Blue Robin over there. And so my logo is a robin with a fedora on, because I'm being connected to nature, but there's still a smoothness to it too. And so for me, I love hats. I've always loved hats. And for me, hats are representing a crown. So I'm walking around with a crown on because I already know what I am and who I am, as well as a halo because I also know my divinity at the same time. So the hat allows that to be protected, and they just look nice. As you can see, the shirt I have on is my Red Fox piece, and it's called Sanford and the Fox. And I'm again big on remixing things, and so this one I have to pay homage to my uncle Marty, who is a huge Red Fox fan, and I also love Red Fox as well too. And so I'm big into comedy. I love things. I love making, like, I love laughing. I love people who make me laugh and different things like that. And Red Fox just had that punch. So whenever he's up there, you already know that there shouldn't really be kids in the room, but I was still in the room and I'm still listening to the different things and whatnot. So I had to create a piece for him because everybody was doing all of, like, you have your Richard Pryor pieces, you have your Chappelle pieces, you have all these, and Eddie Murphy pieces, but I felt like Red kind of gets overlooked sometimes when in reality he was with all these guys, doing work with them and in movies with them, and he was holding his own. And so whenever I paint, I want to capture people's essence. I don't want to just have it look like them, because I also do photography. So if I want it to look like you, I'm just going to take a picture of you. But when I create and when I paint, I want your essence to come off of it. So I was like, how do I remix, or how do I spin Red Fox? And it doesn't look like any pieces that I've seen or any photos that are constantly out there. And I was like, well, in its name, it's already it already tells you what to do. And I was just like, you know what? The fox. And then when I thought about the fox of being like clever and just how foxes are and whatnot, I was just like, oh, it only makes sense that I flip his hat and turn his hat into the fox. And so then it's almost like both of them are looking at each other like, yeah. So black art today, why is that important? I think that one is real easy and that's real simple, and it goes straight to the point. I think for so long our story's been told by other people and nobody can actually understand or know the true story because it's missing, because it's not presented from the actual person. So for me, the reason black art today is important is because not only are they capturing and they telling our story from our perspective, but they're telling it as it's happening, as opposed to just going back in history and then telling it like it's fresh, it's new, and they're right there on the ground.